Hello aspirants, welcome to Pragyān Veda IAS. In continuation with the mains Manthanam series, which covers the mains part and the contemporary affairs, the current affairs pertinent to the UPSC pattern. And we also have the topic for today is the rise of ESG regulations. This topic actually forms a part of the GS3 environment, inclusive growth, and corporate governance. There has been an increased momentum catching across this term called ESG. This has been the buzzword these days, and it covers the sustainability, corporate governance, climate change, environment, all those issues very holistically, and we will see how. So quickly we can define what is ESG. Stands for the environmental, the S for the social, G for the governance. Basically this is a framework which is being mandated, which can evaluate the company's sustainability and ethical performance for a responsible business conduct. And these three areas, these three pillars have been considered as broad areas that holistically covers and encompasses a corporation's business conduct. So we can quickly define some roots and background of this topic, that there has been a increased investment and transformation triggered by $30 billion investment in green funds, especially green focused funds in 2024. So that is the key from where this topic is springing up, and the roots of this can be traced back to the UN PRI guidelines that were laid down in 2006. Okay, so that's how you can just introduce and enter the topic. Then there has been a link that is being established between the CSR and ESG. The CSR, the corporate social responsibility, that mandates to have the companies to give at least 2% of their net profits over the preceding 3 years, of course, for the CSR activities for the benefit of the society in large on various aspects. Now the CSR has been a part of Companies Act of 2013. And how is it that the ESG is another term that is entering the scenario here? That there is a key difference here. You can see on the right side that the focus area is that the accountability and actions to remedy impacts was the focus of the CSR, whereas ESG gets into more detailed monitoring and measuring of how a company is performing. So there has been a shift from mere voluntary commitment to a mandatory regulation that we can observe with the onset of the ESG frameworks. And earlier the output was some divergent and variable reports, which was mostly subjective and in line with the company's values, whereas now it is more comparable and reliable reports are to be published. Same goes that the CSR had been mostly to deal with the corporate culture and values and giving out to the society, whereas this ESG has been more stringent in that way, that it will measure the goals and it will audit also. Yes, so this is the basic difference between the ESG and the CSR. Now coming to what is the ESG and the SDG link. See, the sustainable development goals, which are to be accomplished by 2030, mandated by United Nations. This has been preceded by the millennial development goals, which were which ended in 2015, and many of them were not met. Many of those holistic goals have been put forth in 17 targets and around 100, I don't remember, 100 plus sub targets. Yeah, and across these 17 major targets, if you observe, this covers a very holistic ESG principles: environmental, sustainable, and governance based. If you see the poverty, no poverty, the first SDG, it deals with mostly the governance aspect, the zero hunger governance, then good health and well-being also, maybe the social aspect. Yeah, quality education, again the social aspect, gender equality, see clean water and sanitation, the part of environment, clean energy, environment, so economic growth and decent workplace, that is again the social, right? Industry and innovation and infrastructure, the governance part Of course, it has implications on the environment also that comes with it. Reduce inequality, the part of social. Sustainable cities and communities, again, environment. Then responsible consumption and production in the life cycle, again, environment. Then climate action, environment. Life below water, life on land, all these are environmental parts. Peace, justice, strong institutions, governance part. Then partnership for the goals, again a governance part. See, so this is how the sustainable goals have a connection with the SDGs, and this, when incorporated in a ESG mandate for a responsible business conduct by the corporations, that will help in improving the corporate image. Yeah, and I just discussed on all these points here. And there has been an increased traction and adoption of the ESG, especially post the COVID-19 impacts. That there has been uh, you know a catastrophic event that occurred, and there needs to be a sustainable way of looking forward for the corporations, uh, uh, for their businesses to be conducted in the future, and the way they operate. Yeah, so this is how SDG and ESGs are linked together. Now, what is the significance? We can just quote down and bring down some 5-10 pointers under it. That this will help the future security of the firms. That this kind of assessment will help the firms to have a strong foundation in de-risking themselves with the external uncertainties that may come with climate change, with the regulatory requirement in the future. So those things are to be um, are understood with respect to ESG compliances and the security of the firms in future. As far as the investment and integrity is concerned, that this will help also to ensure that the investment and the investors have overall idea of how the corporation is functioning, and also it will directly indirectly impact the overall well-being of the planet, as the corporations take a larger picture in the economic cycle. Yeah, also addressing the climate change directly, that it will help mitigating risks, you know and also enhancing sustainability and meeting global climate goals. As you know, there has been COP meetings that are happening. There has been Paris Agreement, and lot of events are happening, and lot of push is put for sustainable you know environment across governments, across United Nations. Yeah, also social responsibility, that including the diversity, employee well-being, healthy work culture, engagement. That is more a clearer, healthy aspect of any corporation, any company that is functioning. Also, the strong governance devoid of all the ills that exist hidden within any corporations, like uh, bribery. There has been events of corruption, so it will enhance the accountability, ethics being followed in its spirit, and fostering the investors trust and sustainable work function. So this is the part of the ESG, strong governance part. And also the financial performance, especially the financial goals are to be kept to be in line with these ESGs. Then that will have a more resilient, and it also helps in fostering the innovation. Also, there are various stakeholders within any business environment, where there are consumers, there are investors, employees, management, and all are aligned with the socially conscious practices. Also, the regulatory compliances, as we discussed, that there has been a trend of adhering to the ESG standards, which will help positioning the company with the changing regulations. Also, the long-term value, as a company strives to strives to comply itself with the ESG patterns, that will help to bring that hidden value for a company in terms of the relationships among stakeholders, positioning company in a very robust sustainable growth. Also, various concerns are also associated with the ESG. uh, the first being the transition cost. It is not easy for sudden shift in terms of investing in infrastructure, technology, putting in the employees and workforce in managing the ESG reporting, uh, mandates. So there has to be a separate hiring that has to happen to, you know, to understand and report these ESG frameworks correctly by a company. And also there are various risks and uncertainties that all these environmental social initiatives will directly or indirectly incur cost, and also there is increased risk and uncertainties, and there is a kind of chaos that is being created in the initial stages. Also the small businesses will struggle, as if there are as there are all, they are already going through a lot of tough times with lack of resources, limited resources, and adding on ESG compliance will, you know, tighten their, you know, financial resource, etc. Also the legitimacy of the self regulation. See, in other countries like UK, EU, US, there is CSR is not mandated very legally. It is mostly a voluntary based thing, but in India we have CSR legally mandated, right? So therefore, legitimacy of how legitimate it is that such a ESG regulation is to be fostered, or are put on firms, is a question of legitimacy. Yeah. Then we can discuss of the existing initiatives that are there in place, especially in India, and what are some efforts that are being made by the government in this direction. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs is a nodal agency that takes care of the regulations, be it CSR or ESG. So there have been certain guidelines put in the name of NVGs. They are called as National Voluntary Guidelines. They mostly had social, economic, and environmental responsibilities that were produced in 2011. Whereas now, even SEBI has also entered the market because there has been a climate finance angle to it, uh, the sustainable climate finance angle to it, and that has added. There has been a BRR reporting earlier. Now this has been changed to the BRSR, which is the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Reporting, and this is to be mandatorily applicable to the top 1,000 listed companies, listed in the terms of market capitalization. Yeah, capitalization. So the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has also launched and are have been incubating and curating an ESG certified professional program to bring in skilled professionals, skilled especially in reporting these frameworks. And they have been also creating a national, association of impact leaders, this group of professionals that they who will lead the future course of ESG reporting frameworks, especially in India. This is the case of India. But whereas elsewhere also there are compliances, like in the United Nations, in the US, in the UK, in the EU. So we can deal them and understand them, and how is being implemented in Indian context also we will see. Yeah. So especially with the environmental area, we have within the real estate, buildings and infrastructure development area, there are some BREEAM standard. There are green building bodies that are regulating the overall emissions, the sustainability aspect especially. The BREEAM is in the UK, the LEED is in the US, and STDAMA is in the Middle East, in Dubai, IGBC, the Indian Green Building Council, the WELL for the healthier buildings. So this is the part of E. And also there is climate and carbon specific frameworks, the UNFCCC and Paris Agreement, SBTI, greenhouse gas accounting. Such terms are also there, such frameworks are also there. Within the biodiversity aspect, we have combating biodiversity losses. Then there is Ramsar sites, protection sites are, that frameworks are there. Then for the greener products, products they are called, there is ISO standards, and recyclable products also there is ISO standard. For the social aspects of the employees and the laborers, well-being and a healthier workplace, the International Labour Organization conventions, keeping in the diversity, female participation in the labor force, you know all that. And there is OECD principles also for the corporate governance. For the governance aspect, we have this very famous the GRI, the SASB reporting frameworks existing that have been the base for ESG frameworks elsewhere in the world, everywhere in the world. So the GRI stands for the Global Reporting Initiatives, and SASB stands for Sustainable Accounting and Standards Board. There is existing, of course, UN SDGs we discussed. SFDR is one which helps in disclosing the finances and in the EU. And there is EU taxonomy, very it is like a bible for the rest of the world to follow, the EU classification system for sustainable activities. Then there is the BRSR we discussed by SEBI in India. Yeah, so like that. And what can be the just way forward for the ESG era is that there has to be digital connectivity and financial inclusion with the projected because it is suggested that 40% of the population is to transition to urban life by 2030, especially in India, with increased urbanization. So with this, to manage such a complexity and sustainable buildings, sustainable living spaces and communities, these norms have to be included with an enhanced digital connectivity. Yeah, and also there has to be unified approach with which blending the CSR and ESG, helping in aligning the business goals, will also help keeping in all the stakeholders in perspective. Yeah, namely the investors, employees, and society at large. And we can conclude like this, that the regulatory environment in India should be strengthened to promote greater ESG compliance by the companies, and this will help in robust reporting, you know and also clearing establishing clearer ESG standards, because there is no clear guidelines yet put down, because the whole ESG environment is evolving. The ESG is evolving, so therefore there has to be standardization that has to occur, and it has to take a shape like that. So what is some potential question that can come, that the ESG, the environmental, social and governance concept? Yeah, so how is this the rise of this ESG regulation in the backdrop of sustainable business you know occurring in India? So discuss the same. So like these questions can come. So there is also one term in respect to this called the PPP term: people, planet and profit. The people stands for social, and the environment stands for planet, and profit stands for the governance. So they are equivalent. So this is also PPP term, it is called. And also I just listed some keywords here so that it can be of some. Yeah, so ESG and SDG link, the social financial disclosures. So these key terms should be reflecting, and we can underline them when you answer any questions. And also the GRI, SASB, integrated reporting, those frameworks, standard frameworks you can quote. Also the responsible business conduct. So these some keywords should be there in the answers. Then the answer stands out. Yeah, that's all for the topic today. Thank you.